If you'd like my comments on individual candidates, they are as follows. This is top of the head stuff. Elizabeth Warren shot herself in not only one foot, but both feet. I'm actually a supporter of Elizabeth Warren. I used to call myself an Elizabeth Warren Democrat. Why she decided to back Medicare for all, despite its enormous cost, I have no idea. I read in the Des Moines paper that she has abandoned that, but it's too late. She clung to it for no good reason for far too long. And the only time I've seen her since then, no mention was made of her change from Medicare for all to something far less drastic. In addition, her actual campaign sucks. Her stump speech is great the first time you hear it, and maybe that's why she kept telling it, but it's too long, and she didn't allow time for questions and answers. And perhaps she's just not good at questions and answers. That's what it comes across. But I don't think her campaign is resonating with people here in Iowa. And she's a wonderful woman who's very courageous. Let us pray that she provides seating for her audience. Cory Booker is getting favorable press here in Iowa. He's a good speaker. I watched him win over the Farmers Union, which frankly shocked me. Not because I didn't have a high opinion of a former Rhodes Scholar, mayor, college athlete, but I just thought Cory Booker from New Jersey and the Iowa Farmers Union was oil and water, and yet he won them over with his speech. But he's not going anywhere. I'm glad he stayed in the race. We should have a black candidate in the race, just as we should have women candidates in the race. We should have Westerners and Easterners and all different kinds of people running. Tom Steyer's interesting. He's misunderstood. If he had Pete Buttigieg's voice, he'd be leading the polls. I think his content is probably better than anyone else's. Not only is his content better, he actually goes out and does things, like register 1.5 million voters, like have a farm-to-table movement in the California schools. But he does not then bray about his accomplishments. If anything, he's being too modest. Andrew Yang, I enjoyed seeing. I enjoy the spirit of his campaign. It has not been lost on me nor the American voter how nice he is in debates. I believe in the first debate in which the field was narrower, but both Tom Steyer and Andrew Yang qualified. He complimented Steyer for all the good work he's done, and Steyer looked surprised and thanked him. But that's what Andrew Yang does. He did that again in the last debate. He's just a genuinely nice man. John Delaney is very bright. He's going to be here pretty much the entire month of January. He's already visited all of the counties in Iowa. He's not showing anything in the polls. I don't think that will change. I came here to support Senator Bennett of Colorado. I actually worked for his campaign for a time. I went door to door for him. I'm not going to make a video about that experience until Senator Bennett drops out of the race. I think he has excellent ideas. I think he would be an asset on any ticket. Although, frankly, I think he and Amy Klobuchar are very similar in that respect. And I think she's going to do better than he does, both in the caucuses, in national polls, and in any race for vice presidential. I don't know the personal relationship between Joe Biden and Senator Bennett or Amy Klobuchar, but the political advantages of Amy being from Minnesota and being a woman and the way she's conducted herself in this campaign are obvious to anyone who watches. Pete Buttigieg. If you ask me now, on New Year's Day, who's going to win the Iowa caucuses, my answer is Mayor Pete. I'm going to skip an explanation of why Mayor Pete's preparation for the caucuses is going to be so valuable to him. I've put up a video on how the Iowa caucuses work, and as a part of that video, I show the weekly meetings of the Mayor Pete supporters that happen to take place in the hotel where I'm staying. Suffice to say, the caucuses are complex, and doing your homework beforehand, I'm sure will pay off. Now, with that background, Pete Buttigieg is an even greater favorite to win the Iowa caucuses. He has a very substantial grassroots organization. I'm going to guess it was a lot like Barack Obama's was in 2008. And they're working hard. I put up a video close to a month ago about the weekly meeting of Pete Buttigieg supporters. And the lead item on the agenda for that meeting was to attend caucus training, caucus worker training, so you know what to do when you're at the caucus on February 3rd. There may be organizations as large, committed, and well organized as Pete Buttigieg's, but frankly, I think I would have heard about it, and I haven't. And I've been hearing about weekly meetings for Pete Buttigieg supporters since October. And I suspect, human nature being what it is, that if you have the wherewithal, the moxie, the grit to show up at weekly meetings for several months before the caucus, you're a committed person. I'm going to skip for now whether it's good or bad that Pete Buttigieg wins the Iowa caucuses. If he doesn't, whoever beats him is going to have an enormous amount of momentum. I've heard Joe Biden say, and I believe he's credible because of his experience, that Iowa voters and Iowa Democrats don't make up their mind until the last minute. And I've heard a number of the candidates say, don't just tell me I'm in your top 3 or your top 5. Tell me you're committed to me. Still, as I say these words, the people who are for Mayor Pete are for Mayor Pete. They are not, he's in my top 3. I think he's the right person. I think Bernie supporters are just the same. They may well have been Bernie supporters in 2016. And I certainly wish the party and the national press and everyone had paid more attention to the Bernie Sanders supporters in 2016, because they were tapping into the kind of anger and outrage that elected Donald Trump. They had a different solution than he does, but the frustration, the emotion, the turmoil was there and was evident in the support for Bernie Sanders. Marianne Williamson. I read a piece in The Atlantic that I referenced in one of my videos that said that Marianne Williamson and Andrew Yang are wholly unqualified to be President of the United States. I've heard her say, I am qualified to be president. My qualifications are different from others, but I am qualified to be president. The remarkable thing about her campaign is that she's delightful to listen to. Not just because she's a beautiful woman and she speaks well, but she's almost more temperate, more moderate than she should be. Bernie's out there pounding the table with his jaw out, and he's angry and he's just Bernie. And he's probably been that way for a long time, and he'll probably never change. She is, in some respects, too moderate. I heard her say that she was going to repeal the Trump tax cut of 2017. Well, that's a no-brainer. The reason I supported Senator Bennett was he objected strongly to extending the Bush tax cuts in 2010. And I have not heard Marianne Williamson say that she would remove those. Regardless, the point I want to make about her is that she makes eminent sense. If you listen to her speech, it's not woo-woo and love and butterflies flying around. She gives good, solid political speeches. They're fun to listen to. The people who support her, I think, will follow her lead. And her lead is, I'm going to support whoever the Democratic nominee for president is, period. I will not run as a third party. I would go see Marianne Williamson again. Her stump speech tends to be quite long, but it is not a repeat. I think it's whatever is on her mind that evening. And I have found her question and answer sessions to be wide-ranging and edifying. I learned something from them. One of these days I'll actually introduce myself to her. These are small groups and it's kind of hard to be there. I'm a large man and I have a camera pointed at her, and it's just rude of me not to have said hello, so I will at some point. Mayor Pete was here over the holidays. I did check the candidate schedules in the Des Moines Register. He was in the Des Moines area a lot. I would have happily attended one or more of his events. The good news is Andrew Yang is back in Iowa after New Year's. I don't recall that he is in Des Moines, but he is close enough. He's within an hour's drive, and he'll be in a small setting, of which Iowa has many. And that's, if it's a good venue, that's an excellent place to hear a candidate. Some of the best speeches I've heard were Joe Biden at Fort Dodge, Tom Steyer at Mason City. It's more fun to catch a presidential candidate in a room with a capacity of 200 or 250 people. In Biden's case, you need to double that, but that's still fairly small. It's just more intimate and they're more real. And so I look forward to catching Andrew Yang probably even this week. I create these videos so I pay attention. I'm not sure this is of interest to anyone else, but my videos with Andrew Yang, Marianne Williamson, and Pete Buttigieg are far more popular than any other videos. And I don't know if that's because their supporters are starved for media attention. I mean, what other explanation could there be? Kamala Harris, she's disappeared without a trace, which is what she should have done. She withdrew, so bye. Same thing with Governor Bullock of Montana. He withdrew, he's gone. Both of those people were substantial, worthwhile candidates. Harris is more qualified than Bullock. As I said in a different video, Bullock has more charisma than any other candidate with the possible exception of Pete Buttigieg. This video is not going to include a description of the Joe Biden and Amy Klobuchar campaigns because it's covered in my first video of the new year, which was titled New Year's View, in which I predicted that Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee for president and that his vice presidential running mate will be Amy Klobuchar. I've seen Biden twice, both in rather small and comfortable settings. This is in contrast to the biggest event I attended, which was Elizabeth Warren, also in Iowa State, in the Stevens Auditorium there, which in my view would hold 3,000 to 4,000 people, and did hold more than 3,000 people. That was very comfortable, and for a change, you got to sit down while you listened to Elizabeth Warren talk. The second biggest event I attended was AOC and Bernie speaking in Ames, Iowa, at a commercial venue next to, I think it was the Marriott. That had a crowd of about 2,000 people. By contrast, I've never seen Amy Klobuchar with a group of over 100. I saw her in a bakery, and I saw her at the Farm Union Forum, which might have had 150 or 200 people in the audience, but there were 6 candidates speaking. And I saw her at a union forum in which there were perhaps a half a dozen spectators and a half a dozen TV cameras. Doesn't seem to matter. Amy Klobuchar is here a lot, and she just seems to be doing well. I must add that I did see the last presidential debate, and I thought she did the best of all the candidates. She handled herself very well. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this political content, please consider subscribing.